This idea that the only way to get ahead is through a 4-year degree. Well, people are making more money in these fields after 3-4 years, and these are clean jobs. They're working indoors, and they're using technology to solve problems. How is that much different than going to a 4-year college? But the difference is you don't need a 4-year degree.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the MIFA podcast. My name is Jonathan Hughes, and you just heard our guest on the show, Michael Goldstein. He's from Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology, and we had a great discussion all about that school, its fascinating history, its exciting present, and its promising future. We talked a lot about its co-op program and the great job that it does getting its students placed into lucrative local careers. So you're going to love this conversation. I will be back with the wrap-up afterwards, but for now, let Michael introduce himself to you.
My name is Michael Goldstein. I am the Dean of Admissions and also the Head of Innovation for Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology, or Franklin Cummings Tech. I'm originally from Manhattan, born and raised in New York City, and went through the public schools, the whole bit, so I'm a city kid through and through. And I joined the college in April of last year, so relative newcomer, but spent a lot of time in Boston, specifically at Year Up, where I worked for 11 years.
Oh, that's great. I didn't realize you worked for Year Up. How did that in some way prepare you for Franklin Cummings?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, so I am trained as a math teacher, and I learned to teach and fell in love with teaching through a program, that Summer Bridge Breakthrough program that I was at for 10 years. But this idea of focusing on workforce and how powerful it is to engage companies in the education of students is something I learned at Year Up. And so my dowry, so to speak, in coming here is taking that knowledge and the relationships that I built at Year Up and seeing how we might be able to apply this idea of close company partnerships at our college.
Well, could you just tell everybody who's not familiar a little bit about Franklin Cummings?
So Franklin Cummings Tech, which is the shorter way of saying Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology. So Franklin Cummings Tech has been around since 1908. We're a nonprofit, but we're a private nonprofit. So imagine a 2-year school that just predated all the community colleges by 60 years. That's us. Most community colleges started in the late 60s and 70s with the baby boomers. We predated all of that. 1908 meant that we have been serving strivers and immigrants who are really pushing for that middle-class life for 116 years. And our DNA is all about STEM. It's all about science, technology, engineering, and math. And the careers where you are using tools to solve science, technology, and engineering problems. That's been our bread and butter since day one. And some notable highlights. We were literally started with Benjamin Franklin's own money, which is kind of wild. He, in 1790, before his death, gave 1,000 pounds to Boston and to Philly, and of course created a contest. In 100 years, he said, we're going to do this new thing called compound interest. I want you to loan out my money at 5% a year for 100 years. And according to my calculations, you're going to have 100,000 pounds at the end of it. And then he died. And then we went to it. And it worked in Boston. It didn't work so well in Philly. And then they had to figure out what to do with all this money. There was a big hubbub. Franklin Park was named Franklin Park because there was a rival group that wanted the money to go towards the park. And so named the park proactively so that the money from Benjamin Franklin's will would go to it. And they lost. They were so chastened that they realized they couldn't change the name, and so they kept it. But the money went to start the school. And Andrew Carnegie at the time matched dollar for dollar to be able to get it going. And so we were the first automotive school in the country with the Model A in 1908. Lines across all around the block to be able to learn the latest new tech. And we've been like that ever since. Whatever's new and up and coming that can transform lives, that's what we teach. And so the most recent one, or the one from last 3 to 4 years, has been clean energy. And the most recent one is biotech. So we do cyber, we do glasses, mostly because Benjamin Franklin invented the bifocals. So why do we have electrical engineering? Because lightning rod, baby. Like, we're really dedicated to this guy. He's been dead for 240 years, but we love him. And his legacy, this poor guy who basically had nothing, and through the power of innovation and through the power of learning through apprenticeships, built an empire.
That is
So pretty cool
that
story.
is awesome. That might be my favorite answer to any question I've ever asked on this show. Now I'm going to ask you to situate all of that you just told me in the current time in Boston. So what
Sure,
does
absolutely.
Franklin Cummings mean to current city of Boston and its residents?
So we educate just under 1,000 students. Over 50%, 55% are Boston. Most of our residents, most of our students are from low income backgrounds. 97% receive financial aid. We're one of the most diverse schools in the region, minority serving institution, a Latino serving institution, and the only school in the Commonwealth where the majority of students are men of color. And that's a big deal for us. I had a wonderful conversation with a mom who said that her son came to the school and said, "I belong here. My teachers look like me. The classmates look like me. I'm going to make it." And that's a really important deal. So our president, Aisha Francis, our head, our number two, Marvin Loiseau, they represent our population, which is largely Black and Latino. And that's not trivial and something we're really proud of. And then we're moving to in August of 2025 to Nubian Square, which is a really neat piece. And it's kind of with great power comes great responsibility. We are seen now as kind of the symbol of this new neighborhood and its ascent, which is it's a lot to represent an entire neighborhood, but also a really neat symbol for the city. And we're proud of that.
Oh, congratulations and best of luck with it.
Thanks.
Can you give folks an idea of the range of programs and range of degrees that you offer?
Sure. Most of our degrees are 2-year degrees. We have some 1-year degrees because we believe in stacking. Do your 1 year, and then you can come and then do one more year and get your associates. Or you can go into the workforce and come back later. It makes it easy to have choices. And we have the 4-year program in electrical engineering. We focus on 5 areas. We focus on automotive, both clean energy, electric vehicles, and regular. We focus on engineering, which includes engineering technology, things like robots and renewable energy, and building energy management, which is a fancy way of thinking about all of the energy efficient buildings and how they run. We have eye care, and we have which is the opticianry, and mixed in now is within our healthcare is biotech. Then fourth is IT. We teach cybersecurity. It's one of our biggest areas, very popular. And then the fifth is the trades. So we have construction management, which are the people who are in charge of a construction site. They're the ones telling everybody what to do and figuring out what happens when things don't go the way it should. And then we also have HVAC, and which is heating and ventilation and air conditioning. And then we have practical electricity, for those that want to go into become electricians.
And have you noticed any recent changes or trends, let's say, in popularity of one
Yes.
track versus another?
Yeah, and generally the popularity in what is now called the tool belt generation. This idea that the only way to get ahead is through a 4-year degree. Well, people are making more money in these fields after 3, 4 years, and these are clean jobs. They're working indoors, and they're using uh, technology to solve problems. How is that much different than going to a 4-year college? But the difference is you don't need a 4-year degree. So we have seen a real upsurge in the clean energy field because people are recognizing the urgency of it and learning about the jobs. And that's a big part of what we do. So much of our school is to inform people about things that they never heard of. Like,
Mm.
what the heck is mechatronics? I have no idea. I do now, but it's basically robots, designing and building and maintaining robots. Um, and it's a really cool field, and we're getting a lot of interest in it. The other thing that we're seeing, which is a trend, which is a pleasant surprise, charter schools tend to be are very proud of sending 100% of their students to a 4-year school.
Hmm.
Something happened during COVID and after where 15% of most charter schools now, despite the fact that they have been steeped in this tradition and see school, college names on everything, and that's part of their ethos, they don't want to go to a 4-year college. They
Hmm.
don't see the point of it. They don't see the expense. And so those charter schools are sending them to us.
Hmm.
And so we're seeing big numbers in among multiple. There's 6 different charter schools that have become premier partners of ours because they like our graduation rate. And this is something I haven't mentioned yet, but we have
Oh,
the
really?
highest graduation rate by far of any 2-year school in the region. And so a typical 2-year school might be 12, 14, 16% graduation rate. Ours is between 50 and 54%. Our
Wow.
goal is to get to 60. So we're about the same as, say, UMass Boston, which is very unusual for a 2-year school. For some reason, in the United States, we're okay with the idea that students start college and never finish.
Hmm.
And it shouldn't be okay.
I.
It's giving people debt with no degree. It's not okay. And so these charter schools like us because we have this similar graduation rates as 4-year schools, but they can graduate and finish and get a job. And it serves both the student and those charter schools.
Well, speaking of that, now is when I want to talk about the that dowry that you brought with you from
Yes,
Europe, right? And that is essentially the career placement programs or the co-op programs. And so you talked a lot in the presentation that I saw that got me interested in having you on the show, training students for job opportunities, working with employers. Can you tell me all about that?
absolutely. It's a really big deal. It shouldn't have to be an either or. Either you go to school or you go to work. It should be a both and. And we are well positioned for this. We have an 85% placement rate. Companies line up for our HVAC and our electrical because there's not a lot of people who teach this. And so we already have the relationships and the reputation for excellence among the companies. If we didn't have that, this would be so much harder. We are creating a new social contract. We're saying to students, in a 2-year program, at the end of your first year, you're going to have a job in your field full time for the summer. And then when you come back to school, you will continue working part time until you graduate so that you end up with a degree and a year of experience in your field. So that when you're competing in the job market, you are that much farther ahead of everybody else. And what we're saying to the companies is you can't find enough talent. This is a way for you to grow your own. It's a way for you to have a more diverse worker base, a way for you to customize. You have a culture that you're really proud of, and you want to know if your people are going to fit within that culture. Well, you can try before you buy for a year before you decide whether this is the right person who's the right fit. It is the co-op because it's legendary, thanks to Northeastern, as a brand in Boston. People know that they're getting someone who's young but hungry and who wants to learn and is ready to commit themselves to a great career. We have the same population, same talent. It's just different bank account. And for us, a typical student arrives to Franklin Cummings Tech with an average family income of $35,000 a year. And they graduate with an average income themselves of 53. We would like to move that to 65. We would like them effectively to double their salary because they've spent a year or two with us. And that's a big deal. Um,
Is this every student that goes through that, or is it what percentage of students that are in that
yeah.
program?
We want, by 2026, this will be available to every 2-year program we have.
Wow.
So it is actually, it predates me. We've been doing this in opticianry for 15 years.
Hmm.
Um, so we have students who, the moment they arrive here, are eligible to work at Warby Parker or Lens Crafters or Four Eyes or Vision Works in a way that they otherwise wouldn't be allowed to, because this is working with patients. You are preparing glasses. There's training you need to do. Either you go to our college or you go through an apprenticeship program. This is a third way. It allows you, while you're studying with us, to go to work as if you're an optician, and that's called the co-op program. It's very successful, and they are falling over each other to compete to try to get our students to work as co-op students because they can't find enough workers. We we now expanded it to construction management and to automotive, and so we have 26 students today who are working for different companies in those two fields. And a couple of things that are wonderful about it is, in the case of construction management, 3 of those companies are offering co-ops for the first time to 2-year students.
Wow.
They're very open to co-ops. They do it all the time, but to Wentworth or to Rensselaer or to WIT or places that aren't us. And what we've been able to do through relationship building, honestly, having them meet our students could do it. Give them the ball. Let them show what they can do. And so for the first time, they have students who are in 2-year programs as well as 4. And that is systems change. That's changing the nature of how someone can become a construction manager in the city. And we're really proud of that. And I give a lot of credit to Associated General Contractors of Massachusetts. They are one of our closest partners, and they represent the big construction firms. And the construction firms have told them our number one headache is talent.
Hmm.
Help us do something about it. And so they have partnered with us and have done a great deal of work to help make introductions and to do training to prepare our students for those successful jobs.
And so, what kind of support do you offer students through this process?
Every student has a success coach. It's one of the reasons why we have such a high graduation rate. And from the moment they are accepted, before they even show up, they're working with their success coach to come up with a plan for what classes to take and how they're going to succeed academically. Then support them and help them deal with any crises unexpected that show up. They run out of food, they don't have transportation, they don't have a place to stay, healthcare, mental health, childcare. We're there to support. And so that has been in existence for a long time, and we're very good at it.
Hmm.
The co-op coach is a new feature. So we've hired Adrian Palomeque, whose job is to support the students on the job.
Hmm.
And that also means supporting the supervisor. So we do both. Our job is to ensure that the student stays. And if there's any issue, we're there to support. We also collect data. How's the student doing once a week? And what do you like about the internship, or the co-op, I should say. And so if there are issues, we get involved.
Well, that's sort of my next question as to how you interact with the employers then. First of all, how do you match up in the first place? And then, if there are changes that need to occur or expansions, how does this come about?
We reach out to the companies, and we had warm introductions from Associated General Contractors. That was a huge help to us. We also have what's called an industry advisory board. Colleges have these, especially technical colleges, companies that love us and that help us shape the future of what we're teaching in all of our fields. What's the latest in robotics? What's the latest in cyber? How do we adjust the curriculum based on what we're seeing out in the world? And so we relied on our industry advisory board partners to also make warm introductions. The warm intro was, hey, have a meeting with us, and then come and speak to our students. And so they would meet, they would hear the pitch. They would then come and spend an hour and a half in our school, meeting the students and presenting. Every person who comes, they actually spend 20 minutes with a student one on one before coming. That student then introduces them to the class. Then um, the students ask questions. We train them intensively in how to ask good questions. You are the questions you ask. We say this over and over and over and over again. And so they come up with really good questions. And the people come away going, I had no idea. I had no idea what to expect. This is way better than I expected. Students sell it. And then they're like, how many can we have? And that's a great problem. And so we did this both with automotive and with construction management. We're expanding in 2025 in all of our engineering technology. So all of our clean energy, our robotics, all of those fields will also have co-ops. And then we're going to add biotech and all of our cyber in 2026.
We've talked a lot about career advancement and career placement in the context of the education, because there's a pretty clear step by step in this case from what you're learning to what you're doing, right? So how should students in general, let's imagine somebody in high school, listening to this, how should they be thinking about career within the context of their education and what they're going to do next after high school?
Great question. Students have a lot of choices. We're not for everybody. We only teach like 12 things. If you want to do French or sociology, don't go to us. There are great other schools out there. Ultimately, they should be asking of the schools, what are you doing to help me get a job? Besides having a career services arm or an office, how is it built in to everyday part of what I'm doing in terms of what's happening in the classroom, real life projects where I'm learning through applying what I'm doing? Are there internships? Are there co-ops? What is the culture that is about what happens next, not simply what's happening today? And those are great questions that they should be asking any school that they consider going to, and be discerning consumers. If they're not hearing what they want to hear, go somewhere else. The other thing is, what's the cost? Is it worth the price? And does it have to be 4 years? Merrimack is now doing a 3-year program. That's interesting. There's 2-year programs that, like us, that's interesting. There's more choice than ever before. I I have a daughter who is finishing for freshman year in high school, and the poor kid. So I'm like, great. This summer you're working. She's going to be working for the food project. She's very excited. But she's also going to do 10 informational interviews with people, with women who I feel are incredible in their field, who are friends of mine and who I really respect. And our daughter is going to be researching them, coming up with questions to ask, setting up the meeting, holding the meeting, and writing the handwritten thank you note afterwards. So I'm paying her to do this. $5 per. It's part of the deal. But like, every kid should be doing this stuff.
This is my favorite thing I'm going to do all day, I'm sure. It was great to get to meet you, and I really enjoyed this conversation. I wish you the best of luck. I'm really just kind of bowled over by everything that you've been talking about.
Oh, I appreciate that. That is an absolute pleasure. Happy to do this anytime you want me.
right, folks, that was the show. I want to thank Michael Goldstein for offering his expertise and sharing his time with us. And folks, if you liked what you heard on the show today and you want to know more from us on planning, saving, and paying for college and career readiness, well, then you can follow the show, and you can do that wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're so moved, please remember to review us. It does help us to keep doing what we're doing and getting the show out to folks like you. Oh, and if you know anybody, family, friends, who may be interested in this show as well, let them know. It's always good to get the word out about the show. I want to thank our producer Sean Connolly. I want to thank AJ Yee, Lisa Rooney, and Lauren Dance for their assistance in getting the show posted. Once again, my name is Jonathan Hughes, and this has been the MIFA Podcast. Thank you.